Alright, so today we're going to be talking about our profit maximization level in our chart. So we start over here with our supply and demand curve, and this kind of applies to our profit maximization, showing that we use 40 cents. This is our price right here, and it follows our equilibrium, and our equilibrium is transferred over to our price that we're going to be using in our profit maximization level, and we're going to be talking about avocados. So first we start here with 40, and we pick 40 because it's just a normal price, and we're going to do different prices later. But with 40, we show our price, which matches up with our marginal cost curve. Our marginal cost curve kind of represents our supply curve. So where it hits our supply curve, it also hits our marginal cost curve. So hitting our marginal cost curve, our first step is to draw all the way across to where it hits our marginal cost curve. Our second step would be to draw up and down along the marginal cost curve so it hits our quantity. So our quantity is 6,700. So we're going to write it in our little box over here. So 6,700. So this is our marginal revenue, which hits our quantity. So when we go from our marginal revenue to our marginal cost, we find our quantity. Second, we want to see where our up and down line, our vertical line, hits our average total cost. So actually first we're going to talk about our total revenue, which is this box right here. So when drawing this box, we have 40 cents and 6,700, and then this whole box right here that I have the first dotted line in the box right here, this whole box would be our total revenue, which would be price times quantity. Which equals 2,680. So next we're going to be talking about total cost. So when we find our total cost, we're going to be using the same line that we used when finding our marginal revenue and our quantity. So we want to see where it hits our average total cost. So where the point hits our average total cost, we're going to draw a horizontal line across to where it crosses all the way to the end, and we found that it hits 26. So we use that 26 cents, which is our price, and we times it by our quantity. So, and again, we do the average total cost where it hits there, and we do our quantity, which is 607. So which equals 1,742. So next we're going to be talking about total variable cost, which is right here. And these are already set lines. Our marginal cost, average total cost, and total variable cost already set lines along the maximum possible profit maximization curve. So we use the same exact line that we used when it first hits the marginal cost. We go up and down. So where it hits right here, and we're going to draw a dotted line that goes all the way across. And we find that it hits 0.21 cents. So that's our new price. So using that new price, we're going to find our total variable cost. Using our average variable cost times quantity. 1,407 is what we found. And so finally, when we want to find our total fixed cost, we use our total cost and total variable cost. And what we do is we minus our total cost minus total variable cost. So right here I can see this is our total cost right here, this whole box. Everything's kind of represented in a box. And then we have our total variable cost right here, this box. So it's this huge box minus the smaller one right in here. So we find our total fixed cost, which would be 335, minusing this number minus this number, and we find this area right here. Now, when talking about profit, we also use our boxes. So we find this big box right here as our total revenue box, shown all throughout here. And then we also find our total cost box, which is right here, using our average total cost. So it's this big box minus this littler box. So it's this number minus this number, and finding our profit of 938. Finding our profit right here. So we have our profit, and we also have our total fixed profit. Total fixed.
Next, we're going to talk about the decision rule and how it affects an individual avocado firm. Right here we have an output and input graph. So basically what that means is it shows all the different combinations of input and how that reflects with output. So at any given point, such as right here, we use just labor and capitals. So like for input, that could be labor or fuel costs, so whatever you put in order to produce avocados, and then output is what you produce, hopefully your revenue. So at any given point, such as right here, you can see that, how the input reflects to the output. And so basically to show that, it would just be slope. So for example, this could be just 1 unit of input and you get 2 units of output out of that. So that kind of just shows at any given point of input, you can see how much production you'll get out of that. And as you go along the curve, it just shows your different average products. And as you're going up the curve, your production is increasing, you're making more money out of it. And then once you get to the point just about right here, where right before it starts to slowly, it's still increasing at this point, it's still increasing up to max, but it's not increasing as much, so you're not making as much money. But this is the point that you want to be producing at. This is where the slope is the highest, where you're getting the most, bang for your buck. You're getting the most output with a given, input, such as labor, fuel costs. But then as you keep going up, like I said, up to the max right here, this is equal to the law of marginal diminishing returns. And so at this point, this is anything after this point, your input is actually decreasing, and so it wouldn't make sense to keep producing because you're not getting as much money out of it. So after this point right here, pretty much you want to stop producing product. And also this graph over here is another way to look at it. It pretty much just reflects this graph just in a better way. And so this point right here reflects with this point. And so as you can see, once you reach your max, there's a certain point where you want to stop producing because you're not getting your money's worth.
Alright, so now we're going to see an example of our avocado market where there's a change within the market. So, first we start with our original market, where if we have a short-term plan, we might be able to have a fixed market or a fixed fuel, because in the market we see a 50% or 50-cent increase in fuel. If we had a fixed market, we would show that we would have $1, where we would have our original price of fuel would be $1, which would fall across our marginal cost and our quantity. And this would keep the same supply of our factors of production because we haven't changed the factors of production of fuel if we have a fixed cost. In the long run, for avocados, say we had to, change the market, we had a new fixed cost of fuel, we would have to adjust to the new market, which already had a 50-cent increase in fuel. So we would have to readjust our whole entire market, and we'd have to adjust it to the market of avocados. So we would find a $1.50 market for fuel, which would have a new price and a new quantity. And this is shown on our supply and demand curve, with a decrease in supply. With a decrease in supply, we have a shift to the left with a price increase and a quantity decrease, which is a new equilibrium. And we see that within the market, with a change in fuel, we're going to have to adjust our supply, which is actually going to affect the entire production of avocados.
For profit maximization, that is the process by which the firm determines the price and output level that returns the greatest profit. To maximize profit, the firm will have to operate where the marginal revenue line crosses the marginal cost curve. And you get the profit by the total marginal revenue minus the total marginal cost, which equals profit. And the profit margin becomes smaller when you operate above the maximum profit line or marginal revenue line.
Okay, so this is our graph for the profit maximization of avocados for the whole market. And as you can see, when we're operating at the maximum profit point, we're making our total revenue is this whole box right here, all the way up to 40 cents, and then our total cost is from here to the average total cost curve where it intersects and across. So all of this is our profit. And when other firms see that avocado industry is so profitable, then they're gonna want to switch into avocados. Say if the apple market is not making any profit, then apple growers might think about switching into the avocado market, and that would cause us to go over to the supply graph. So with how profitable the avocado industry is, more sellers, say from the apple industry, because we're using those as substitutes, and they can grow either avocados or apples. Once they see the profit amount they can make in avocados, more sellers are going to switch into the avocado market and leave the apple market. And once they enter the avocado market, this is going to cause the supply to shift to the right because of the number of sellers increasing, which will make the quantity of avocados produced increase. And with the sellers entering the market, then the price will start to decrease, making it less profitable.
So after the short-term market change, we can also see a long-term market change. So as the supply increases, we have a number of sellers, which would also, what we just said, would it would decrease our price because it's increasing the quantity but decreasing the price. So with a decrease in price, we would see that the price keeps on decreasing until it hits some point, which we would see it hits a break-even point, which is right here, which hits your average total cost and your marginal cost at the same time. So at this point, we would see zero profit, to where your total marginal cost and your total marginal revenue equal the same, which this box would be the same for both, which equals zero profit. And at that point, we would see the apples and the avocado companies, we would see the apples actually almost shifting back to apples because they realize that they've invested so much of their time into avocados so where they can't make any more revenue just because of the number of sellers. So they would move back to apples. This is actually in the long run, so this would take a lot of years and a lot of time for the market to shift all the way down to a 0 point. And so what would happen was, if the apples came to avocados, they would end up having to leave because they realized that the market would probably be better in apples. So the apple companies would leave and we would come back to the supply curve. Instead of going back down, if apple firms left, they would go back up, and it would end up actually going back to its original state. So avocado in the avocado market would go back up to 40, leaving the profit higher. So as more sellers come in, there's less profit. As more sellers leave, there's more profit.
Hey Brennan, do you like guacamole?
Yes.
How much do you like guacamole?
A lot.
Do you like avocados?
Yeah.
Are there seeds in
Not as much as guacamole.
Are there seeds in avocados?
No, they're pits.
Ooh, ag business.